What if I told you that melee and pixies could coexist in one build? I'll swap over to the pixies. And he's dead. That is Son of a Witch. We're on Chaos 35. Intense difficulty. Let me just show you that here. Intense difficulty. Chaos 35. So let's get into the skill points here. We are using Reaper of Bones as our primary action skill. You can honestly use Ghost Blade or From the Shadows. Dire Sacrifice works, but it's, in my opinion, the weakest. The way I have it set up right now, Reaper of Bones is the best. You can swap out to some of the other rings that I have if you want to go for a more melee setup and use Ghost Blade. I prefer Reaper of Bones. So, we're 2 points into Mortal Vessel just to get down the tree, a little bit of survivability. 3 into Faithful Thralls, 3 into Harvest, 5 in the Dark Pact, and then I got 2 extra from my class mod. 3 in the Dark Hydra. The one thing that's a little different than usual is we're going a point in the Dread Covenant. This is really helpful for Reaper of Bones. It lets us stay in the skill longer because the Lich will sacrifice himself to keep us going. And yeah, with Reaper of Bones, it's a really useful skill. Not something I usually use. Ascension, maximum health, and mostly for spell damage. Everything that we're using is hitting for spell damage, even though we're not using a lot of spells. But our Buffmeister. A point in Lord of Edges. This is really awesome with Reaper of Bones. Blast Gasp. We're putting the 4 points that we have into it. This is always a good skill to do massive damage at random times, somewhat depending on if you know how to proc it, and you know a lot of it's just RNG, so it's mostly here because it can be powerful. And then Morhaim's Blessing is great, activates all of our kill skills. We have quite a few. Over into the Stabbo tree, we have Arsenal and Haste both maxed out. We've got 3 points in to exploit their weakness. We did skip over follow-up, a skill that I'd normally take because of an interaction that's been floating around in the community since sometime yesterday. I don't even know who to give credit to for that interaction, so whoever found the interaction with Contagion, great job. I believe Pugly was the first one that I saw posting about it, so shout out to him. We are using Nimble Fingers maxed out, a point into Shadow Step, and then Contagion we max out, and then we also take 3 on our class mod into Contagion. Basically, the way that Contagion seems to work, what's been found is that if you go over 100% status effect chance and you have those 6 points into Contagion, you are just hitting crazy elements all over the place. I'm not going to claim to be a Borderlands math guy. I'm not. But I know that we need to be over 100%. You're going to have that just from your status effect chance, as well as you'll have 16% from here, 81.4% from here, so you're going to need just a few points in your myth rank and the status effect chance and you'll hit it. We're using the Initiating Spellblade. I really like this. Gain 30% melee damage against enemies above 70% total HP. It seems to really help with one-shotting a lot of enemies with our melee. We do have this same Spellblade in all the different flavors: Cryo, Shock, Poison, Fire. And then if you wanted to go a more melee route, we threw in the Wailing Banshee, the Snake Stick. Um, I'll show more about alternate paths here. For our primary melee weapon, we're using the live wire. You're gonna want to empty it down to just one bullet in the magazine. Shout out to Moxie for pointing that interaction out to the community. For those of you who don't know, the less ammo that you have in your live wire magazine, the harder that your melee hits and live wire procs are going to hit. It gets really ridiculous. So yeah, you're gonna want to have this just down to one bullet in the magazine all the time. The Fear Not of the Champion, we're using this mainly for mobbing with pixies. For bossing, I'm mainly using the Bloodshot of the Wizard. It just does even more damage with the pixie companions. So I normally used the Fear Not for mobbing, or the Live Wire I use for a lot of my mobbing. And then for bossing, I typically switch over to the Bloodshot of the Wizard. We do have a Queen's Cry with the taser attachment on here for flying enemies, Bernadette, the very few things you can't hit with your melee or your pixies. And then let's get down into the rings. We have a duplicate Magic Mood Ring of Akathon's Choir, spell critical hit damage, spell critical hit chance, and dark magic efficiency. This is just absolutely ridiculous with Reaper of Bones. If you wanted to go a more melee route, we do have the Pummeling Mood Rings with some different action skill passives, some different melee critical hit chance, melee critical hit damage, and then what I'd recommend if you want to go a more melee route, the Shark Lesson Rings, which will give you the bonus melee damage rotating between elements. It's really crazy with this build. I just really wanted to get the pixies and the melee to both be viable at Chaos 35, even for bossing. The only way I could do that was to focus on spell damage, but melee damage options are here for those of you that want it. We're using the Desperate Master Rune with the enchantment. When health's below 50%, regenerate 5% maximum health per second, gain 30% damage dealt. That is, it's kind of tailor-made for Reaper of Bones. I did put in a Desperate Mace Wardu, same enchant. For those of you that want to go to a more melee route, this is the shield that I usually rock on most of my builds, and it's great for melee. But this is awesome for the companion damage, and yeah, it just fits really well with the build. We're using the Sacrificial Skeep. All my builds do. That's where we're getting the rest of our status effect chance. I'm using Graveborn power. I've included Stabbo power for those of you that want to take the build the other direction. The Burgeoning Buffmeister with spell damage and gun damage. This is the piece that I was missing. I kept trying to use ability damage instead of gun damage, and it just wasn't doing it for the pixies. Now this makes the melee, it still hits plenty hard, and the pixies are able to just shred things as well. So you can play this build however you want to. And then for our class mod, I'm using the Cultist Selective Amnesia with Graveborn power at primary, and then Stabbomancer power. I did include the inverse for those of you who prefer the Stabbo. And then there's also the the paradigm for those of you who are more into min-maxing. I love this because I saw this interaction. I believe Abby Hour on YouTube, shout out to Abby Hour, pointed this out. With Reaper of Bones, you light yourself on fire, and there's a lot of movement speed that we're already getting from the Stabbomancer tree. This is just a hell of a lot of fun, in my opinion. For straight up min maxing, you might be better off with the paradigm, but there's more to it than just min maxing. I also wanted to provide some fun, and the selective amnesia, the ability to light yourself on fire. I really enjoy that myself, so that's how I'm running it. And there's all kinds of other just primordial gear and stuff. If you guys want to switch anything out, let me show my hero stats. I went all into strength and dexterity, and I put the rest into constitution. Because we're running the ancient perk on our melee and we're meleeing a lot, we don't really need attunement. So basically, you just want to be critting as much as possible. Put the rest into Constitution, because with the melee and things being up close, you do, and Reaper of Bones, you lose health pretty quickly. I find that having more health helps to keep Reaper of Bones up longer, which helps with the class mod, and it all just kind of synergizes together. So that's the way that I chose to run it. Now on to my myth rank, because I noticed a lot of people getting confused about that. So my myth rank is very high. I've only spent 500 points. You can see 1892, available points 1392. I went 500 into my myth rank. I do like to boost people, help people out, but yeah, I stopped at 500 total myth points. So anyone that thinks that this is like an unattainable build that they could never create because they don't have enough myth points, please do look at this part of the screen. I only am using 500 myth points because I don't want to make things too easy for myself or make builds difficult to gauge, how powerful they actually are. The status effect chance you are getting, I'm getting 30% by having my Archmage points, all of that 125 in there. For anybody that, is falling a little short of the 100%, just put a couple of points in on your myth rank into status effect chance and the Archmage tree, and that'll put you right over. I didn't opt to change any gear or to put more status effect chance, because you only need like 3 or 4% from your myth rank overall, so really didn't seem worth it. If you're absolutely unable to obtain the myth rank, if you don't have your shrines done, you could always put a point into potent poisons, but I would honestly recommend just getting a couple points from your myth rank, and that'll put you over the 100%. As for the enchants on the guns, I went with while action skill is active, increase elemental damage by 35%, just because we're doing so many different types of elements. I believe that should be everything. There will be a save file linked in my Discord server. Feel free to join. Feel free to make any requests that you want to make. Feel free to just grab the save file and go. If you just want to come to tell me the build sucks, whatever it is that you want to do, the Discord's there. Everyone is invited. Oh, last thing, I named the character Possessed Polly is the name of my pet, and the name of the character is Darth Raider, because we are an evil pirate. And yeah, that's going to be it for the build video. I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you want to grab it, come on over to the Discord server, and may the 4th be with you.